Beneath the heart of New York City, where the streets above glowed with electric signs and crowds pulsed like a living river, the Times Square subway station beat with constant motion. The tiled walls gleamed in places and flaked in others, and the tunnels exhaled warm gusts of air, scented with iron, dust, and roasting peanuts from the vendors above. Every moment, somewhere in the dark, a train approached, first a whisper of metal, then a rushing wind, then a thunder that shook the rails and the bones of anyone nearby. No one in that rush of bodies and noise expected to find beauty here. But beauty, as it often does, arrived quietly carried, not by a performer in bright lights, but by a creature no bigger than a thumb. Chester Cricket had once belonged to a world where beauty came easily. His home was a wide Connecticut meadow, rimmed with trees and brushed by the wind like the surface of a calm lake. His days there were unhurried, filled with the taste of dew on grass and the company of other crickets whose songs blended into a summer chorus. Nights were the best cool, fragrant, the stars scattered in a deep blue vault above. Chester had no ambition to leave, no reason to imagine anything beyond the meadow's borders. But life has a way of carrying us farther than we plan. One day, Chester followed the faint scent of food into a wicker picnic basket left open in the grass. Inside were sandwich crumbs, a piece of fruit, and what seemed like a perfect place to rest. Before he could hop out, the lid closed. Voices laughed above him. The basket swung into the air, and Chester felt himself lifted into a world of strange smells and sounds. Hours passed. When at last the basket opened, he was surrounded by the echoing vastness of a train station, far larger and louder than any place he had known. This was Times Square. Chester scrambled to the edge of the basket and saw steel rails stretching away into tunnels, floors slick with the marks of countless shoes, and a blur of people hurrying past. In that moment, he might have been lost forever, had it not been for a boy named Mario Bellini. Mario's family owned a small newsstand tucked between two stairways. The stand was worn at the edges, its wooden counter stained by years of coffee cups and newspapers. Business was modest, and the Bellinis worked hard for every coin. Mario, curious and kind-hearted, noticed Chester trying to hide and scooped him up with careful hands. The little cricket didn't struggle. There was something gentle in the boy's touch. Mario found him a tiny corner behind the cash register, a safe space away from the stampede of feet. There, Chester could watch the world from the shadows. He saw businessmen in sharp suits grabbing papers, tourists fumbling with maps, and tired workers heading home at night. It was a rhythm so different from the meadows. Not the slow breathing of nature, but the quick, unending pulse of the city. In his first days, Chester felt lost. The noise pressed on him like a heavy blanket shouts, train brakes screeching, shoes slapping against tile. The air was never still, always stirred by the rush of people or the sigh of passing trains. And yet, amidst this chaos, Chester found friendship. Tucker Mouse was the first. Slim and lively, Tucker was a scavenger with the quick wit of someone who lived his whole life on crumbs. He made his home in a drainpipe near the newsstand, and though he was small, his knowledge of the station was vast. He spoke of secret storage rooms, abandoned tunnels, and the best times to search for discarded food. Harry Cat, Tucker's friend, was the opposite calm, elegant, his fur always sleek. Harry moved through the station with quiet grace, a creature who knew when to pounce and when to simply observe. He enjoyed the warmth of a steam grate on cold nights and could sit for hours listening to the hum of the city. With their company, Chester began to adapt. He learned when the station was busiest and when it emptied to a soft, lonely echo. He smelled roasted chestnuts drifting down from the street, heard the faint wail of a saxophone player performing above ground. And then, one night, the music began. It wasn't planned. Chester, alone in the newsstand, began to rub his wings together, perhaps to soothe himself, perhaps out of habit. The sound was clear, delicate, unlike the rasp of an ordinary cricket. It had the purity of a single violin note and the warmth of a lullaby. It rose and fell, winding into a melody that seemed to hush the air itself. Tucker, hearing it from his drainpipe, froze. Harry's ears twitched in the half-light. The music drifted beyond the newsstand, slipping into the corridors, curling around the columns. A woman waiting for her train felt her shoulders loosen. A man in a hurry stopped without knowing why. The next night, Chester played again, and Mario listened with wide eyes. Soon, the Bellinis realized the little cricket's gift could draw people in. And draw them it did. Commuters began stopping by the stand, not only to buy papers, but to hear the strange, gentle music. The stand became a small haven in the roar of the station. Weeks passed. Chester's fame spread. Strangers leaned against the counter, closing their eyes to listen. The Bellinis sold more papers. Even the grumpiest regulars began to linger, softened by the melodies. But Chester knew, deep down, that this was not forever. His heart still held the memory of the meadow, the scent of clover, the chorus of his kin, the way the air cooled under the stars. And so, after one final evening of music, a song as soft and slow as twilight itself, Chester made his choice. He left quietly, slipping away before dawn. Tucker and Harry saw him go. Saying nothing, they understood that some friends must follow the pull of home. The city did not stop for him. The trains kept running. The lights kept flashing. But for those who had once paused to listen, his song remained, a reminder that even in the loudest, busiest places, a small voice of beauty can change everything, if only for a moment.